Have you ever been halfway through an edit in Premiere Pro and you click somewhere on the timeline to play back your media and Premiere is kind of like, oh, this is the file you're trying to play back. Yeah, it can be very frustrating, especially if you're on a deadline. Trying to meet that deadline when Premiere Pro is just crashing your computer to a halt it's the worst. Anyway, I'm Tom for Envato Tuts Plus, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to speed up your workflow in Premiere Pro using proxies. No matter what computer you're using, I guarantee you I'll be able to speed up your workflow. Now, speaking of computers have gotten a lot better at handling video footage as the years have gone by. And I can tell you what, like since I started editing about 15 years ago, the technology that we're working on now is just mind-blowing compared to what I started on. But the big problem there is that camera technology has also continued on that upward trajectory as well. And now you can shoot 4K, 8K, 12K with relatively, accessible cameras. There's very real scenarios where you can be given 8K footage to edit on a laptop. This is the world that we live in. So with proxies, you've got two options. There's the, oh my God, I'm in the middle of this edit and it's going so slow, I'm never gonna meet this deadline. What can I do, please help? Or there's the, I know I'm going to be working with large media files on this upcoming project, so here's how I'm going to set myself up for success from the very start. I'll show you both ways. Now, if you are in that first way where you're kind of in panic stations and you're halfway through an edit right now and you're looking for the solution, don't worry, check out the description below because I'll have all of the time codes listed so you can skip forward to exactly where you need to get to help solve your issue. And if you're not in a hurry, stick with me and we'll look at both ways and we can kind of learn how proxies work in Premiere Pro. But before we get into it, you are going to see in this tutorial a bunch of 4K and 8K stock footage. It's beautiful stuff. I got it from Envato Elements. Now, Envato Elements is a super easy to use subscription-based service that gives you access to millions of digital assets that you can download and use in your projects right away. One subscription lets you download any one of these millions of assets. And we're not just talking stock footage, we're also talking stock music, we're talking photos, we're talking video templates, we're talking fonts, we're talking graphic templates. There's so much on there. Check out the link in the description below to learn more about Envato Elements today. And now we're ready to jump into Premiere Pro proxy workflows. All right, so let's open up Premiere Pro. So as you can see, we're sitting in it right now. I'm just about to ingest my footage for the first time, and I'm just going to go like I usually would. I've opened up Premiere, I'm on the import page. I just select all of the footage that I want to work with here. This is the new version of Premiere Pro, so it's giving us some options over here. So let's just call this sequence. And we'll create a new bin as well, and we'll call this stock footage. All right, so we've selected that and we're just gonna hit import. So now we have our 4K footage, you can see here. My computer's doing a pretty good job of playing it through. It's this beautiful kind of aerial stock. These are all 4K pieces, and then these ones here, we get into 8K. And a little bit of a pause when I went to play it back there, but ultimately I'm pretty lucky to be working on a high spec machine. But I can imagine for a few of you out there, if you try to play back 8K footage on your laptop, it's not going to be as pretty as this. And don't worry, I've been there. I've been there for many years trying to cut even full HD footage sometimes on the wrong laptop can really slow things down. And it's got to do with a few things. It's got to do with the spec of the laptop, but also the footage that you're working with, the codec that it's captured in, the resolution that you're working with, and all of those fun things. So what can we do to speed up the workflow a little bit? Well, the very first thing that we can do, and this is what I'll urge you to try first if you're having trouble right now. See over here on the right-hand side, it says full. This is our playback resolution. So at the moment, when I play it back, it's showing me in full 8K resolution. Right now, this is 8K. If I go to one of these ones, that's showing me in 4K resolution. If I click here, I'll get a drop down and I can look at that in half, 1/4 or 1/8 resolution. So to really, drive it home, let's click 1/8. And you can see here, nothing's changed. But when I play through, you can see it's blurry. We're playing back at 1/8 the quality. And you can see here it's nice and smooth. And look, mine was smooth beforehand, but you get the picture. Staying over here in this section, just next to it, you've got some settings. And if you go down to playback resolution, that's what we just looked at. I've got it set to 1/8 currently. Just underneath that, you've got pause resolution. Make sure you've set this to full. Basically, what that means is when you're playing back at the lowered resolution, it's going to look like this, but more importantly, it's going to be smooth. That's what you want when playing back. But when you stop, it snaps back to full resolution, so you can kind of see exactly what you're working with. So that's some quick tips to help you speed up the timeline if you are getting a little bit of a slowdown. But how do we do this, properly with proxies? So I mentioned before, there's two ways to do it. Let's do it the first way. Let's say we've already opened up this project, we've been working on it for a week, and we're now just tearing our hair out because everything's going so slow. What can we do? Well, what we can do is find all of our footage up here, and under stock footage, you can see I've got all of these clips. I'm going to highlight all of them right now and right click. Down here, you can see I've got a little thing called Proxy, and it's going to give me the option to create proxies, attach proxies, or reconnect full resolution media. What we're doing right now is creating proxies. So we'll click Create Proxies. So here it gives you a dialog box and it asks you to set a preset. Now for me, working on a Mac, I find that ProRes works very well for me. Sometimes H.264 media will work well for you as well, but I would always suggest to try ProRes first. And then if that doesn't work, which it should, if that doesn't work, you can try some other preset settings. So we'll keep this on QuickTime and we'll do ProRes Low Resolution Proxy. Down here, you can see also there's the destination where these proxies will be saved. I'm going to keep it on next to original media in proxy folder. Basically, if I know where my original media is, it means I'm going to know where my proxy media is. So I'll hit OK. But what's happened? Well, what's happening is in the background, Media Encoder is opening. Let me drag it over onto this screen here so you can see it. So you can see right now, it's brought all of our footage in, it's added those ingest presets, and it's now exporting those proxy files. It's gonna go pretty quickly, but you can see down here, it's outputting this at a 1024 by 540, 540p resolution. So we've gone from 4K and 8K down to a 540p resolution. So things should work very quickly once we're back in Premiere Pro. Now, this could take a while. It's not going to because I've only got a few files, but you can go back into Premiere Pro while this is happening in the background. So we'll do that. We're back in Premiere Pro and not much has happened on the surface anyway. There's a lot happening in the background. It's like the duck, you know, the legs are going madly under the water, but they're cool and calm above the water. What's actually happening is that those proxy files are being created and they're being attached to this full resolution media. So in theory, when we play back in Premiere on our timeline, we should be seeing the proxy file, but when we export later on, we're actually still linked to that original media file. So when we export, we'll not have any loss of quality. We won't be exporting with 540p. We'll be exporting in true glorious 4K and 8K, making sure that we're getting every little detail that was captured in camera. Well, first things first, we need to click this little button down here, and that's going to be our button editor. And these are our buttons, our timeline playback buttons. So we'll hit that, and what we're looking for is this one here, which is toggle proxies. So just click that and drag it on and click OK. So now when you have this enabled, it's toggling the proxies on. So if there's a proxy file for this piece of footage, it's toggling that on. So we're seeing that in the edit. And then when you untoggle it, we're seeing the full resolution 4K. Now it doesn't matter if you keep this toggled on and forget to untoggle it and then export, it's never going to export unless you dive down into some settings later on. It's never going to export at the proxy media quality. It's only going to export at our full resolution. So don't worry if you forget to turn that off. But you do have to turn it on to make sure you're getting the proxy workflow happening and things are working nice and smoothly. Now, through YouTube, you might not be able to see what I'm looking at here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zoom in to 200% on this 4K file. You can see here, we've got quite a bit of detail. If I turn the proxies on, all of a sudden it's gone. We've lost that detail and you can see dramatically how different the resolution is. So all of that information that we've just lost by turning the proxies on, you can imagine that's information that Premiere Pro doesn't have to read and render in real time. So that's how proxies work to speed up your workflow. Let's turn this off and we'll go and have a look at this in the 8K version. This is 8K here, and we'll pick this one over here, a little bit more detail. Look at that, that looks like a relatively nice image. Don't forget that we're zoomed in 200%. Now if I turn the proxies on, look at that, you can barely see it. It's like it was shot on a potato. So you can see the proxies are actually working really hard for us here. When we zoom out, things look okay, and we can definitely edit by looking at this, knowing that things are going to look fantastic once we export. And let's also not forget as well that I'm also still playing back in 1/8 resolution. So things are just going to be nice and smooth now. So that's all good and well if you have gotten halfway through your project and you need to speed things up a little bit. But how do we set ourselves up for success if we know we're going to be working with 8K and 4K footage from the very start? Well, it's simple. What I'll do is I'll delete everything that we've just done and we'll start again. Deleted. So up here in your project panel, just next to that, you've got Media Browser. Let's click into that. Now, down here, you'll see there's an ingest button, and over here, you'll see that there is ingest settings. So let's open up those ingest settings. So here you go, you've got the ingest settings here. You want to toggle that on, and it will give you a few options. You can copy, transcode, create proxies, or copy and create proxies. What I want to do is create proxies. Before we did ProRes proxies, so let's do that again. we'll go down and we'll go ProRes low resolution proxy, and we'll do proxy destination same as project, and hit OK. And again, that's done nothing except it's ticked our little ingest checkbox here. So you've got to make sure this is checked on for the next step to work. If it's not checked, you'll just be importing the full resolution media. Make sure it's checked for this next step. So once you've gone through and you found where your footage is, you just want to highlight it all. So I can now right click on this and hit import, making sure that ingest is checked up here still, hit import, and it's going to open up all of our files just like we did before. And what we'll do is we'll just create a quick timeline, new sequence from clip, we'll drag our 8K footage in there as well, and we'll just set that to the frame size. So now we've got our files in here like we did before, but because we set the ingest presets up properly at the start there, what it's actually done in the background is it's pulled all of our proxies once again into Media Encoder. It's exactly the same process as before. It pulls it into Media Encoder. In the background, it creates the proxy file, puts it in a location on your hard drive, and then just links it in the background within Premiere Pro. So once we go back into Premiere Pro, you can see it's exactly the same process. You've got your toggle proxy button here. It's exactly the same as what we did before. You're just doing it from the import phase, making sure that from the very beginning, you're working with optimized media, proxy files, to make sure that your timeline is as smooth as possible as you're editing. Well, there you go. I hope you've learned something from this video. There's two quick and easy ways to do this. There's the panic stations and there's the set ourselves up for success. And I hope if you are in panic stations at the moment, this has helped put your mind at ease a little bit and gotten you back on track, and hopefully cooled your computer down as well. I can hear those fans whirring from here. And if you did like the video, make sure you head over to the Envato Tuts Plus YouTube channel and get subscribed today, because we're putting great content out like this daily in Premiere Pro, DaVinci Resolve, After Effects, Illustrator, Photoshop, anything that you need for your creative endeavors. Jump onto Envato Tuts Plus and we'll teach you something today. And also, while you're clicking around in the links below, make sure you check out Envato Elements. I mentioned them at the start of the video and you've seen some of the great 4 and 8K footage that you can download right now. Unlimited downloads of millions of digital assets. You'll never be able to get through all of them in your life. Jump on there now, get a subscription, and use all of this in your projects right away. The licensing is so simple, it's really, really easy to use. You can cancel the subscription at any time, so there's really nothing stopping you. Jump into Envato Elements today, and until next time, happy editing.